I like space. Do you like space? If you're here, I'm gonna assume you like space. So today, I'll be telling you about 45 cool things that exist in space. I originally came up with this video as a way to celebrate reaching 45 subscribers on my channel. Do I still have 45? I don't know. Maybe I've gained more, maybe I've lost some. That's for future me to know and current me to not know. As of beginning this recording, I still have 45, so there's that. Our universe holds many wonders and beauties and things beyond our planet, so let's go ahead and take a look at 45 of them. First up is our own planet, Earth. All of humanity lives here and has always lived here. I guess except for astronauts on the International Space Station. Earth is the third planet from the Sun, the fifth largest in the solar system, and the only planet ever identified that is known to harbor life. Other planets that could support life have been found, like ones that exist in habitable zones or possess features and traits that would be good for life, but none other than Earth have been found to actually have life on them. The name of Earth comes from Old English and German and means ground. We named our own planet Dirt. We took a look at the ground and said, yeah, that seems about right. Which is almost unusual in a way because the majority of the planet is water, so you'd think we would call it, water, but I guess maybe because we don't live in or on the water, we just named it after dirt. Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, which is a lot of years. That's a big number, give or take about 50 million years or so. The solar system itself is around the same age, and pretty much all parts of it are thought to have formed around the same time. Earth is cool. I mean, how insane is it that things have happened just exactly right for us to be here? It's absurd. It's so unlikely that any of this has ever happened, and yet here we are. Are sharks in space? You could argue not, but I would argue they are, because, well, everything's in space. Earth is in space, I'm in space, you're in space, and therefore sharks must also be in space. I'll be completely honest, I only included sharks on this list because a bit ago I saw some sort of tweet or something about how sharks are older than the North Star, which we will get to later, but it just, like, it messed with me. Sharks are hundreds of millions of years old. Fossils of sharks have been found from like 400 million years ago. They're extremely old. There are more than 500 species of shark, so there's a lot of these things floating around in our oceans. There are, plenty of animals that are older than sharks, but I wanted to talk about sharks, and it's because of the older than the North Star thing. It's because of that. That's the reason I'm talking about sharks. Next is our moon. I love her so much. The moon is the brightest and largest object in our night sky, which makes perfect sense because, she's like right there. I mean, she's kind of far away, but compared to other things we can see in space, she's literally right there. The moon is about a quarter the size of Earth, and she orbits around 239,000 miles away from us. She's tidally locked, which means we only ever see one side of her from Earth. The moon is just called the moon because for a very long time, we didn't even know other moons existed. The moon was probably made about 4.5 billion years ago when a Mars-sized object collided with Earth. Something super big just crashed into us, and then the remnants of that collision became the moon. Because the Earth and the moon are about the same age, or, Earth is like 4.5 billion years old, and the moon was created around 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth has just always had the moon. She's always been right there, and like that, it makes me so emotional for no reason at all. She's always been there. She's right there. I love her so much. The moon is responsible for tides on Earth. It's the gravitational pull of the moon that creates high tides and low tides. Yes, I've been calling the moon she, and I will continue to use human language pronouns like he and she for objects that exist in space, and you cannot stop me. I will continue to do it. It's the sun. I love her too. The sun is a yellow dwarf star at the center of our solar system. Everything in the solar system orbits around it. In fact, a year is technically defined by how long a planet takes to make one revolution around its sun. Earth is just the right distance from the sun to make it habitable. The sun is what gives Earth light and warmth, and without those things, life probably never would have appeared on this planet. The sun, combined with Earth's tilt, is what causes seasons. I could be wrong, but I'm decently sure that the Earth is tilted on its axis because of the collision that created the moon, and because of that tilt, sometimes one hemisphere is pointed towards the sun, and when a hemisphere is pointed towards the sun, that's when it's summer in that hemisphere, and that's why, you know, the northern and southern hemispheres have pretty much opposite seasons. When it's summer in the north, it's winter in the south. The sun, like other stars, is a big, giant, glowing ball of super duper hot gas. At her core, she's about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit, which is a lot of degrees, and it's very, very, very hot. The surface is comparatively cooler at 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but it would still kill you. You'd still be dead if you got near it. The sun is about 4.6 billion years old, and was probably the first thing in the solar system to form, and it's likely her formation that eventually resulted in the planets of the solar system being formed. In about 7 to 8 billion years or so, the sun will run out of hydrogen. At that point, she'll sort of expand, or I think it's more like the core collapses while the outer layers expand, and during that expansion, Mercury and Venus, and possibly Earth as well, will be swallowed. She'll eat the planets. She gets hungry. At that point, Earth will definitely no longer be habitable. It will be like outside of the habitable zone. It'll be way too hot for anything to survive. When the sun uses all of her fuel, she'll burn out and become a white dwarf, and she'll remain that way until the very end of her lifespan, when she may progress to the theoretical stage of a black dwarf. But black dwarves are entirely theoretical right now, and, you know, they haven't actually been proven or observed to exist. Our sun will not go supernova because she's just not big enough for it. She's too small. Stars need to be at least several times more massive than our sun in order to go supernova. I do kind of wish I could be around to see our sun die. I think that would be pretty cool. Mercury is the smallest planet in our solar system and the closest to the sun, but despite being the closest, he's not the hottest. That actually goes to Venus. Mercury is named after the Roman god of shopkeepers, merchants, travelers, transporters of goods, thieves, and tricksters. This guy was the god of a lot of things, a wide variety of people. Mercury in mythology is considered the Roman equivalent to the Greek god Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods. And Hermes was considered to be, you know, very quick, because, you know, he's got to deliver the gods' mail very fast, I guess, and Mercury has the shortest year of any planet in the solar system. The planet takes around 88 Earth days to orbit around the sun. This super short year is probably because Mercury is the closest to the sun, and so it has the, you know, smallest distance to cover in a year. However, a day on Mercury, which is how long it takes for the planet itself to rotate once, is about 176 Earth days. So Mercury's day is almost twice as long as his year. Mercury has no moons, so he's just out there zipping around the sun all by himself. Do you think he ever gets lonely? Venus is the second planet from the sun and the hottest in the solar system. Her heat is due to her incredibly dense atmosphere of greenhouse gases that traps a lot of heat. The surface of Venus is hot enough to melt lead. If you went there, you'd be dead. You'd be dead. You would melt, or just burn, I don't know. Either way, you'd be dead. Venus is named after the Roman goddess of love. Compared to other planets, Venus kind of spins backwards. While on Earth, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, it's the opposite on Venus. The sun rises in the west and sets in the east. A day on Venus is 243 Earth days, while her year is 225 Earth days. So, like Mercury, her day is longer than her year, although the discrepancy is not quite as large. Also like Mercury, she has no moons. She's got no moons. She's by herself. Venus has a whole lot of volcanoes, which I think is pretty cool. Venus can be seen in the sky without a telescope. She can even be one of the brightest objects in the night sky. Mars is the fourth planet from the sun, and like Venus, he's visible in the night sky with the naked eye. The Romans named him after their god of war because his red color looks like blood, which I think is pretty sick. A day on Mars takes about 24.6 hours, so he's not too far off from our day. However, Mars's year is almost twice as long as Earth's at 687 Earth days. We've done a whole lot of missions with Mars. We've sent a lot of robots and drones and rovers over there. Mars has two moons, called Phobos and Deimos. Both are kind of potato-shaped because they're too small for gravity to make them spherical. They're named after the horses that pulled the chariot of Ares, who is the Greek god of war. In about 50 million years, Phobos will either break apart or crash into Mars, and this event could give Mars rings. Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun and the largest in the solar system. He's so big that if you were to take all the other planets and combine their sizes, Jupiter would still be more than twice as large as all of them. Jupiter is also probably the oldest planet in the solar system. He's made up of all of the same materials that make a star, but he's not big enough to be a star. Jupiter is named after the king of the ancient Roman gods. He's particularly known for his Great Red Spot, which is actually a massive storm bigger than Earth that has been raging for hundreds of years. Imagine a constant storm for hundreds and hundreds of years. Imagine that happening on Earth. That would suck. That would be really bad. So it's probably a good thing nobody lives on Jupiter. Jupiter has rings, but they are very faint and difficult to see. They were discovered by the Voyager 1 spacecraft in 1979. Jupiter's day is only about 10 hours long, so considering how massive he is, he's spinning pretty damn fast. A Jupiter year is equal to about 12 Earth years. Jupiter has between 80 and 95 moons, which is a lot. The 4 biggest moons are Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Io is the most volcanically active body in the solar system. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, and he's even bigger than Mercury. In short, I love Jupiter. I think he's pretty cool. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun and the 2nd largest in the solar system, but despite being huge, she's not very dense. In fact, if you could put her in a massive cosmic bathtub of water, she would float in it, and she's the only planet that would be capable of this. Saturn is named for the Roman god of agriculture and wealth. Her day is about 10.7 hours long, while her year is equivalent to around 29.4 years on Earth. Like Earth, she has an axial tilt, which causes her to experience seasons. Saturn is perhaps most well known for her rings, which are absolutely stunning and beautiful. These rings are thought to be pieces of comets, asteroids, and moons that were pulled apart by Saturn's incredibly powerful gravity before they could ever reach the planet. Saturn has a whopping 146 moons, which is more than any other planet in the solar system. Saturn is the planet furthest from Earth that is still visible with the naked eye, and thus the furthest planet discovered without the use of a telescope or other equipment. Uranus is the 7th planet from the Sun. An ice giant, he was the first planet to be discovered with a telescope. He's named after the Greek god of the sky, and I can't help but feel a little bad for him because, you know, all of the jokes about his name. Uranus has 13 faint rings and 27 moons. All of his moons are named after characters from the works of William Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. A single day on Uranus is around 17 hours, while his year is about 84 Earth years. Uranus has a very strange tilt that makes him seem like he rotates on his side. This unusual tilt may have been caused by a collision with an Earth-sized object. So Uranus was like this, and then something smacked into him, and now he's this way. Uranus also rotates from east to west, much like Venus. Neptune is the 8th planet from the Sun, and she's an ice giant like Uranus. She's named after the Roman god of the sea. Neptune was technically first discovered with math. Her existence was deduced because of the way her gravity affects Uranus's orbit. In 2011, she completed her first full orbit since her discovery. Neptune has 14 known moons, which are all named after lesser sea gods and nymphs in Greek mythology. Triton, her largest moon, was discovered just 17 days, or 2.5 weeks after Neptune herself was discovered. Triton is also the only large moon in the solar system to circle its planet in an opposite direction from that planet's rotation. This is possibly because Triton was originally an independent object that Neptune saw and was like, give me that. I'm going to take that. It's mine now. Like Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, Neptune has rings. At the start of the solar system's formation, it's likely that both Neptune and Uranus formed closer to the Sun before eventually moving further out. Pluto was discovered in 1930. She used to be considered the solar system's 9th planet, but she was demoted to a dwarf planet in 2006. She was named after the Roman god of the underworld. Pluto is located in the Kuiper Belt, which is a region of icy objects beyond Neptune's orbit. It was the discovery of other similar objects in the Kuiper Belt that led to Pluto being changed from a planet to a dwarf planet. Pluto is only half the width of the United States, so she is very, very tiny. When Pluto was reclassified, many people were, and plenty still are, upset that she wasn't a planet anymore, but I disagree. She's just a different kind of planet, and the reclassification doesn't mean we have to love her any less. One day on Pluto is about 153 hours, while her year is around 248 Earth years long. This means after her discovery, she didn't even complete one orbit around the Sun before being reclassified to a dwarf planet, which is kind of sad. Her orbit is elliptical, which means she doesn't go around the Sun in a perfect circle. From 1979 to 1999, Pluto was actually closer to the Sun than Neptune. Like Venus and Uranus, she also spins from east to west. Pluto has 5 known moons, all of which are named after other mythological figures associated with the underworld. These moons are named Charon, Nyx, Hydra, Kerberos, and Styx. I may have mispronounced 1 or 2 of those, and I apologize. Charon is Pluto's largest moon at half the size of Pluto herself, which makes it the largest moon in relation to its planet. While Charon is tidally locked, and so only one side of it ever faces Pluto, the others are not, and they all spin independently. It's possible there's a 9th planet in our solar system. This theoretical planet has been dubbed Planet X, and is sometimes just called the 9th planet. It's been predicted mathematically to explain the oddities in some orbits of objects in the Kuiper Belt. This would be similar to Neptune, whose existence was first deduced because of the way she influences Uranus's orbit. No direct evidence has ever actually been found of Planet X, so for now, Planet X is just a theory. A space theory. You've probably heard of this one. Halley's Comet is a comet that returns to Earth's vicinity once about every 75 years or so. She last appeared in 1986, and she's predicted to return in 2061, so I hope I'm still around to see her. Halley's Comet has been seen and observed for a very long time. The first known observation of her came from Chinese astronomers in 239 BC. The comet was photographed for the first time in 1910. She's officially called 1P/Halley. She was named after Edmund Halley, which makes sense. Halley looked at reports of comets that visited Earth in 1531, 1607, and 1682, and he determined that these 3 individual comets were actually the same one. He predicted it would return again in 1758, and although he didn't live to see it because he passed away in 1742, he was right. There's something strangely sad and poetic about that. Oumuamua was the first interstellar object to visit our solar system. That basically just means it came from outside our solar system. Though it was the first known interstellar object. There could very well have been others that we just didn't see. The object was discovered on October 19th, 2017. It's officially named 1I/2017 U1. It was dubbed Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian for a messenger from afar arriving first. This thing has a very elongated shape, and its length is about 10 times the size of its width. Oumuamua makes me so weirdly emotional, especially the meaning behind the name it was given. Calling it a messenger is so sweet in a way, like it was just swinging by to say, "Hi, hello, how are you?" Probably wandered the Milky Way for hundreds of millions of years before reaching our solar system by pure chance. I wonder where it is now. What other solar systems will it visit? It's the North Star. Polaris is the brightest star in the Ursa Minor constellation and the 48th brightest star in the sky. Of all the stars in the sky, she's currently the closest to the North Celestial Pole, which marks true north. She's long been used for navigation because of this. Polaris is about 434 light years away from Earth. In the night sky, Polaris appears to be motionless while the rest of the sky seems to rotate around it. You can't see this in real time because things happen too slowly, but if you were somehow able to speed everything up, like through a time lapse maybe, you would be able to see the effect. Polaris won't always be the North Star. In some 14,000 years or so, Vega will become the nearest star to the pole. She'll pass the baton on over and wait for her next turn. Polaris is actually a triple star system. It's composed of stars Polaris AA, Polaris AB, and Polaris B. Polaris AA and AB orbit each other, while Polaris B orbits around those two. The system is only about 70 million years old. Sharks are older than the North Star. Hell, the North Star is younger than us, Earth. They're just babies. The Pleiades are an asterism, or a pattern of stars. They're also an open star cluster made up of more than 1,000 stars. They're located in the constellation Taurus, about 410 light years away from Earth. They're also known as the Seven Sisters and Messier 45. The English name comes from a Greek legend where the stars represent the daughters of the ocean nymph Pleione. I may have said that incorrectly. The stars in the Pleiades were all born around the same time, so they really are sisters in a way. Their age can range anywhere from 75 million to 150 million years. The Pleiades are visible with the naked eye. I've personally seen them myself. There's just something so cool about seeing a bunch of stars just gathered together like that. It's super interesting. Black holes are a huge amount of matter packed into a very small area. The gravity in these bad boys is so powerful that even light, the fastest thing in the universe, can't escape, and this is why they're called black holes. Because nothing escapes a black hole, including light, we can't really directly observe them, but we can study them through the effects they have on matter around them. Black holes were first predicted by Einstein's theory of general relativity. Black holes form from the remnants of a large star that dies in a supernova. Black holes that collide with neutron stars, something I'll cover later, can make even bigger black holes. It's possible the Milky Way could have over 100 million of these things. It's theorized that every galaxy has a supermassive black hole, which is just a really, really big black hole, at its center. The first black hole ever discovered was Cygnus X1. Black holes have 3 layers. There's the inner and outer event horizon, and then the singularity. The event horizon is the point past which no light can escape. It can also be used as a saying to refer to a point of no return. The singularity is the single point in space-time where the mass of the black hole is concentrated. Because light can't escape the event horizon, it's impossible to know what a black hole's singularity looks like. We've never seen it and probably never will. A lot of people find black holes terrifying, and I guess I can't blame them. It's this massive thing in space that just sucks in everything and nothing can escape from it. But I don't really find anything in space to be scary. I want to view it all with wonder and curiosity instead, which, maybe it's corny of me, but whatever. Sagittarius A star is the supermassive black hole at the center of our own Milky Way galaxy. She's mostly dormant, only occasionally absorbing gas and dust. She's millions of times more massive than our sun. Just imagine the size of the star that had to die to create this thing. The entire Milky Way galaxy revolves around Sagittarius A star. She's absolutely huge, with a diameter of around 14.6 million miles. She lies about 26,000 light years away from our solar system. In 2022, scientists revealed the first ever photo taken of Sagittarius A star. The photo was taken by the Event Horizon Telescope, which also took the first ever photo of a black hole in 2019. Speaking of the first ever black hole ever photographed, we have the M87 supermassive black hole. This is the supermassive black hole at the center of Messier 87, which is an elliptical galaxy. It was imaged in 2019, becoming the first black hole to ever have its portrait taken. There isn't much else special about this black hole, but I think it's cool enough that it was the subject of the first ever black hole photograph. We managed to take a picture of something that doesn't even emit any light. Sirius is also called Alpha Canis Majoris, the dog star, or Sirius A. It's the brightest star in our night sky, although not the brightest thing in our night sky. That's usually the moon, but can also be Venus or Jupiter. Sirius is actually a binary star in the Canis Major constellation. It lies 8.6 light years from the solar system, and it's named after a Greek word meaning sparkling or scorching, which makes perfect sense considering how bright it is. Sirius A's companion star is Sirius B, which is a white dwarf and is much dimmer and can't be seen with the naked eye. The Andromeda Galaxy, also called Messier 31 or M31, is a spiral galaxy in the constellation Andromeda. Positioned about 2.5 million light years from Earth, she's the most distant thing that we can see with the naked eye. The Andromeda has a history of collisions with and accretions of other galaxies. She sees other galaxies, asks, is anyone going to eat that, and then doesn't wait for an answer. The Andromeda is the closest spiral galaxy to the Milky Way, and she could be anywhere between 5 and 10 billion years old. The Andromeda is particularly notable because in about 4 billion years, she and the Milky Way will collide. Most likely, when that happens, the Andromeda and Milky Way will end up merging to create an even bigger galaxy, which I think would be super cool, and I really wish I could be there to see it. Betelgeuse is one of the brightest stars in the night sky and one of the largest known. He's usually the 10th brightest star in the night sky, but this ranking can change because he periodically dims and brightens. He marks the left shoulder of the Orion constellation, so he's pretty close to the 3 stars in Orion's belt. Betelgeuse is about 650 light years from Earth. He's a red giant in the final stages of his life. Relatively soon, he'll probably go supernova. He's only about 10 million years old, so he hasn't had a very long life, but that's probably because of his enormous size. The biggest stars burn the brightest and die the fastest. Up to 2,000 years ago, Betelgeuse was still described as a yellow giant, which means he's only just entered the red giant stages of his life. This means Betelgeuse will probably not go supernova during our lifetimes. He's still got some time left. But when he does go supernova, he'll be so bright that he will even be visible in the daytime. The Tarantula Nebula is also called 30 Doradus. It's 161,000 light-years away in the Large Magellanic Cloud. It's the largest and brightest star-forming region in the Local Group, which is a group of galaxies that includes the Milky Way. The Tarantula Nebula is visible to the naked eye and orbits the Milky Way galaxy. It's forming new stars incredibly fast. It's just pumping them out like it's nobody's business. It's also super pretty, and that's always a bonus. The Crab Nebula is the expanding remnant of a star's supernova. Japanese and Chinese astronomers actually recorded the event 1,000 years ago because the supernova was so bright. The nebula is about 6,500 light-years away in the constellation Taurus. It's also known as Messier 1. Charles Messier, the one who made the list of Messier objects, originally mistook it for Halley's Comet. As a side note, the entire Messier catalog started as a list of things that Messier thought were comets, and he just got really frustrated about it because he was only interested in finding comets, and so he made a list of things that could be mistaken for them. At the center of the Crab Nebula is a neutron star, which is something we'll get to a little bit later. The Butterfly Nebula is also called NGC 6302. The star in its center is dying. The source of its name is pretty obvious. It seems like it has two wings expanded out from its center. This wingspan is about 3 light-years across. The Butterfly Nebula is about 4,000 light-years away in the Scorpius constellation. Its central star is invisible, possibly because it's obscured by a cloud of dust. The Ring Nebula is also called Messier 57. It was discovered by Antoine Darquier de Pellepoix in 1779. I may have said that incorrectly. I only took 2 years of French and I remember none of it. It's 2,000 light-years away in the constellation Lyra, and a white dwarf star lies at its center. There's nothing particularly special about the Ring Nebula, I don't think. I just think it looks pretty cool. It's another example of the stunning beauty that can be found out there in the cosmos. The Pillars of Creation is the name of a photograph taken by the Hubble telescope. The objects photographed are located in the Eagle Nebula, which is 7,000 light-years away in the Serpens constellation. The pillars are part of an active star-forming region and stretch about 4 to 5 light-years. The James Webb telescope later revisited the pillars to take another picture of them. Again, they're an example of the beauty of space. Sometimes I think a little bit too hard about the universe and all the wonder it holds, and I start to cry. Like, legitimately, I start crying. Is that just me? The official name for this planet is a bit of a doozy. It is PSR B1620-26b. It's a gas giant that was discovered in 2003 and is commonly known by the nickname Methuselah. Its estimated age is about 13 billion years, making it the oldest known planet. It orbits a pair of burned out stars and is 2.5 times the mass of Jupiter. This one's an oddity. Its official name is HD 140283. Like the planet I just talked about, it's often known by the nickname Methuselah. This star was first estimated to be 16 billion years old, which is unusual because, well, our universe is estimated at only 13.8 billion years old, so that brought up the question of how can this star be older than the universe? The star is 190 light-years away in the Libra constellation. After some further research, the initial estimate was lowered from 16 billion to 14.46 billion. That's still older than the universe, but then a margin of error of about 800 million years was applied, which meant at the low end, the star would be as old as, or just a little bit younger than the universe. A 2014 follow-up study lowered the estimate even further to 14.27 billion years, and in May of 2021, yet another group of astronomers placed the age at 12 billion years. Methuselah has long been considered the oldest known star in the universe. Although it shares the same nickname with the planet I just mentioned, they actually don't have anything to do with each other. They're not, like, connected at all. They're just named after the biblical figure Methuselah, who was the longest-lived person in the Bible. This star was likely born in a primeval dwarf galaxy that was later shredded and absorbed into the Milky Way over 12 billion years ago. I love this thing. I love Methuselah. It's this funky little star that made scientists scratch their head and go, well, That doesn't look quite right. Achernar is a binary star also known as Alpha Eridani. It's 144 light-years away from Earth in the Eridanus constellation. It's the brightest star in that constellation and the 9th brightest in the sky. Achernar A is the primary star, while Achernar B is the secondary star. B orbits around A. Achernar A is notable because of its unusually high rotation speed of more than 150 miles per second. Because of this extreme speed of rotation, Achernar A appears to be flattened. This flattening, because of this thing spinning so incredibly fast, makes Achernar A the flattest star that we know of. Achernar's name derives from an Arabic phrase meaning end of the river. Tabby's star is also called Boyajian star, or KIC 8462852. I don't know how scientists choose to name stars, but even the scientists have to get confused with all these numbers, right? They've gotta. Tabby's star is unusual because it occasionally dims as much as 20%, which would seem to imply that there's something that occasionally blocks its light. It's also been slowly dimming. It's more than 1,000 light-years away and was discovered by the Kepler telescope. Multiple different explanations for this star's strange behavior have been proposed, although none of them have been definitively confirmed. A more sensational theory is that an alien civilization built something like solar panels around the star to harness its power. According to this theory, it would be the existence of those panels and them, I guess, orbiting around the star that would cause it to dim from time to time. Would that be pretty cool? Would it be pretty cool if there were aliens that built things around this star? I think it would be pretty cool. Do I think it's the answer? I have no idea. Nobody knows what the answer is, but it's pretty cool to think about. Scuti is the biggest star in the universe that we know of. Its radius is around 1,700 times larger than our sun's. It's a variable hypergiant, and it's classed as such because it grows brighter and dimmer over a 740-day period. Scuti is near the center of the Milky Way galaxy, around 9,500 light-years from Earth, in the constellation Scutum, which I think is a pretty funny name for a constellation. The star was discovered in 1860, and although it's the largest, it's not the most massive. Its size is measured by its radius, whereas mass is defined by how much matter is in something. It's believed that Scuti has begun to fuse helium and will eventually go supernova. And what a supernova that'll be. Stephan's quintet is a grouping of 5 galaxies that appear to be close together. In reality, 4 of the galaxies are 290 million light-years away, while the 5th is much closer at 40 million light-years away. The closer galaxy is called NGC 7320. The other 4 are NGC 7317, 7318A and B, and 7319. They're also known as Hickson Compact Group 92. They're visible in the constellation Pegasus. NGC 7318A and B are close enough that, upon first glance at a photo of the quintet, these 2 galaxies almost look like they're already one. Eventually, the 4 galaxies that are closer together will merge into one big super galaxy. Then NGC 7320 will just be on his own. I guess he'll be out there by himself. I wonder if he'll miss his friends. Neutron stars are the remnants of the cores of massive stars. They're one of the 2 possible endpoints for massive stars, with the other being black holes. Basically, massive stars, upon their death, become either neutron stars or black holes, and either way, they're cool as fuck, so I see it as a win-win. Neutron stars are among the densest objects in space. They average only 12 miles in diameter, but they are super massive. A single teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh 10 million tons. The cores of neutron stars have gravity so powerful that most positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons combine into neutrally charged neutrons. This is where the things get their name from. Scientists aren't too sure why some massive stars become neutron stars and others become black holes, but one theory is that when a neutron star is created, the densely packed neutrons prevent the core of the star from collapsing any further and basically prevents it from becoming a black hole. I'm sure there's a much better way to explain that, but I am not an expert. I'm just some fucking nerd who thinks space is cool. Pulsars are a type of neutron star. They rotate extremely fast and blast out pulses of radiation at regular intervals ranging from seconds to milliseconds. Pulsars have strong magnetic fields that funnel particles around their magnetic poles. This makes it seem as though there's 2 beams of light shooting out from either side of a pulsar. From Earth, pulsars seem to flicker because their rotation means that their light is sometimes pointing away from us, and it's possible there are plenty of pulsars that we've never discovered because their light just never happens to point at us. Magnetars are another type of neutron star. They have incredibly strong magnetic fields. Like, they are so strong that if you got within, like, a few hundred miles of one of these bad boys, you would be done. Vaporized in an instant. It would be like Thanos snapped his fingers and you happen to be part of the unlucky 50%. Some magnetars are also pulsars. Not many magnetars have actually been discovered, so they're not very common at all. Quasars are a type of extremely active and luminous, or bright, active galactic nucleus. An active galactic nucleus, or AGN, is a very, very luminous galactic core. Gas and dust falling into a supermassive black hole give off what I can best describe as a metric fuck-ton of radiation, and that creates AGNs. I think. Again, I'm not an expert. Quasars are among the most luminous objects in the known universe. All the ones currently discovered are very, very far away from Earth. Blazars are another type of AGN. They have a jet of light that is pointed directly at Earth, which I think is hilarious. They are looking directly at us. That's it. That's the only distinction. Blazars have a beam of light that is pointed straight at Earth. Rogue planets are planets that aren't connected to any solar system or orbiting any star. They're just out there floating on their own. They're going places and even they don't know where because they don't have the capability of knowing things. It's possible that there are actually more rogue planets than ones tied to any solar system or star. I think that would be pretty funky and a great example of how we assume that our experience is the default. Or something like that. Rogue planets are hard to detect because they don't exactly give off much of anything that we can pick them up from. Stars glow and give off light, but planets don't. It's also possible that some rogue planets are actually starbound planets that just happen to orbit very, very far from their star. This thing has a super complicated name that I don't feel like reading out loud, so I won't. It's a quasar located about 12 billion light years away. The most notable thing about it, at least to me, is that it's surrounded by a whole bunch of water vapor. Like, a lot of water vapor, as in it is enough water to fill Earth's oceans more than 100 trillion times. That's a lot of water. TON 618 is a quasar and blazar in the constellation Canes Venatici. It's the most massive black hole known at roughly 40 million solar masses. A solar mass is the mass of the sun, so this bitch is tens of millions of times more massive than our sun. TON 618 is about 18.2 billion light years away from Earth. It's estimated to be about 10.8 billion years old. The central quasar is so bright that it outshines the galaxy around it. We can literally see the quasar in the middle of this galaxy, but not the galaxy itself. That's insane. This thing really puts the supermassive in supermassive black hole. The cosmic microwave background, or CMB, is the cooled remnant of the first light that ever traveled in the universe. It was released soon after the Big Bang, like only hundreds of thousands of years after it, and it basically just comes from, well, everywhere. It's all over the universe. Before cable TV was a thing, any household with a television could see the cosmic microwave background, turning early TVs to an in-between channel which showed the CMB as a static signal on the screen. Imagine how insane that would be. You would literally be viewing the oldest thing in the universe besides the universe itself. Being so old and also being a remnant of the Big Bang, the cosmic microwave background can help us learn a lot about the early universe. Hoag's object is a rare ring-shaped galaxy about 600 million light years from Earth. A ring of blue stars surrounds a sphere of red stars. Another ring galaxy is visible between the ring and the sphere. Hoag's object is a mystery because nobody knows how it happened. How did it get like that? Why does it look like that? Did it just form that way? Was it disrupted somehow? Is it technically one galaxy, or can it be considered two? I cannot express with words how much I love Hoag's object. It's so pretty. I've tried to order this list so that like the more cool and amazing things are at the end, but it is entirely, it's completely personal bias that Hoag's object is the second to last thing on this list. I will admit that freely. What can I say? I just think she's neat. And our final item on this list is the universe itself. The universe is, well, it's everything. It's everything that is, ever has been, and ever will be. Everything that exists is part of the universe, this great big cosmic mystery that we call our home. There's sort of two kinds of universe. First is well, the actual universe, and then there's the observable universe, which is everything that we're able to see from Earth. The observable universe is about 41.5 billion light years in every direction from us, so it forms sort of a sphere. The universe itself could be infinite, but we don't know. But it does have a finite age, which is estimated at 13.8 billion years. There could be plenty of things so far away from Earth that their light just hasn't even had a chance to reach us yet. There could be so many things we just aren't able to see. Where is the center of the universe? Is there one? If it's infinite, then there wouldn't be a center. The universe is grand and vast, and we will never explore all of it. We'll never know all the answers or all the secrets, which I think is total bullshit. What loving God would curse us like this? One day, the universe will end. It will be no more. Nothing will remain. Everything will have died and burned out ages ago. What will happen then? Nobody knows. Humans certainly won't be around by then. Maybe someone will be. Personally, I think it's enough that we exist now, and we can see so much of the universe, and I think it's enough to wonder about it, and dream about it, and love it for what we know. I think that's enough. A lot of people think space is scary, or terrifying, or label the vast and sometimes empty cosmos as cold, cruel, uncaring, and unforgiving, but I don't view it that way. I'm not afraid of what's out there. I'm not scared of space or the universe. I think it's incredible and beautiful and wonderful. The universe isn't unforgiving, and it's not forgiving either. It's not sentient or conscious. It doesn't know what forgiveness is. It has no thought of its own. It's not indifferent to our existence because, well, it can't be. To be indifferent implies a level of thought the universe as a whole simply doesn't have. It just exists, we just exist, and that's okay. To borrow one of my favorite ever quotes from one of my favorite ever video games, Outer Wilds, the universe is, and we are. Thank you.